President Trump is extending his deadline for Iran to open the Strait of Hormuz or face attacks on their power plants. In this social media post, Mr. Trump said the extension came at Tehran's request. He said talks are ongoing and they, quote, are going very well. In yesterday's cabinet meeting, Trump gave insight into what he called a gift from Iran and rejected accusations that he's desperate to make a deal.
They said to show you the fact that we're real and solid and we're there, we're going to let you have 8 boats of oil, 8 boats, 8 big boats of oil. I'm the opposite of desperate. I don't care. I want to know. In fact, we have other targets we want to hit before we leave.
CBS News White House reporter Aaron Navarro joins us once again from our Washington bureau with more. News White House reporter Aaron Navarro joins us once again from our Washington bureau with more on this. Aaron, good morning. What more do we know about this deadline extension from the president, and where do negotiations really stand today?
Good morning, Errol. That deadline was going to expire tonight, but as you mentioned, that got extended to the evening of April 6 here in the U.S. And President Trump told Fox News yesterday that Iran had initially asked for just a 7-day extension. But the president pointed to that gift of Iran letting 10 oil tankers through the Strait of Hormuz as a reason to extend the 10 days. He has said repeatedly that testing who the authority actually was in Iran had helped prompt these negotiations in the first place. Now, in that cabinet meeting, Witkoff made remarks that made it seem that he was optimistic that Iran would realize the U.S. offer deal is the best approach, in his words, even though Iran has rejected it publicly and said their initial response, which was conveyed to Pakistan, according to a story from Reuters. President Trump, in that Fox interview yesterday, showed frustration with Iran for saying one thing publicly and then another thing privately during these negotiations. But whether it was the U.S. potentially sending more troops to the region that was a pressure point on Iran, or the domestic pressures President Trump is feeling here in the U.S., given the rising gas prices, the U.S. and Iran get 10 more days to reach a deal and potentially end this conflict.
Now, Aaron, tomorrow marks a full month since the conflict began. Does it seem lawmakers really have the stomach for another month?
You know, the president yesterday seemed to dismiss reports that he's lost his base, the MAGA members in Congress. But throughout this week, there's been a steady trickle of Republicans on Capitol Hill who have shown discomfort with this war, and especially given the news that about 1,500 troops are being sent to the region to join the 50,000 that are already there. Take a listen to what we heard from senators on both sides of the aisle yesterday.
Americans should be shocked and fearful by the prospect of American sons and daughters on the ground in Iran in the most risky and perilous situation in recent military history.
As far as I'm concerned, it's time to come home. Now, I don't have the information the president has.
Now, House Speaker Mike Johnson has told his members that he believes the war will end soon, but it's clear that the discomfort among Republican rank-and-file members on Capitol Hill is growing.
All right, Aaron, thank you very much. Let's get our viewers to the region now. We're joined by CBS News senior foreign correspondent Holly Williams. She's reporting live from Tel Aviv for us. Good morning. So with Iran are going very well, but remind us what Iran really wants out of any potential deal.
Good morning, Errol. Well, firstly, Iran says that it's dismissed an American ceasefire plan and is not negotiating, and has actually made its own demands for ending the war. Those include reparations and sovereignty over the Strait of Hormuz. Now, of course, it is highly unlikely that the US and Israel would ever agree to those terms. However, we've heard from the German foreign minister this morning, who said that direct negotiations will likely happen soon in Pakistan. And if that does happen, then Iran's position, at least arguably, is pretty strong when it comes to bargaining. Because while on the one hand, Iran has been hammered militarily, the US says it's hit over 10,000 targets inside Iran. The Iranians have played a powerful economic card by effectively controlling which oil tankers, which ships can sail through the Strait of Hormuz. That is a narrow choke point through which around 20% of the world's oil must pass. That's around 20 million barrels per day. That has inflicted global economic pain and put pressure on President Trump to end the war. A couple of other important points is that Iran has shown that it's willing to take a lot of pain, both militarily and in terms of assassinations of its top leaders. Also, it's probably true that the Iranians have a fairly low bar for victory. And what I mean by that is that from the perspective of the regime, surviving the war, the survival of the regime may, in their minds, equate to victory.
Holly, what real options are on the table for the president right now?
Negotiate with the Iranians, which he's attempting to do, although so far that doesn't seem to have borne much fruit. Secondly, there's speculation that the US could hit back against Iran, for instance, by sending ground troops to seize control of the island of Karg Island, which belongs to Iran, and through which the Iranians export around 90% of their oil. But that would mean boots on the ground, and that would likely be unpopular in the US. We're going to have to go to the shelter very soon. I'll just finish this thought. Finally, President Trump could unilaterally end the war, declare victory. But that would likely mean leaving around 1,000 pounds of uranium enriched to 60% in the hands of the regime. They would likely restart their nuclear and ballistic missiles program. And then there would be big questions for President Trump about what this war has actually achieved.
Holly Williams, we hear that emergency alert. You and the crew get safe. We appreciate you standing by for us, Holly. We appreciate it in Tel Aviv.